Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris. How are you guys doing tonight?
Wonderful,
Good.
wonderful. How are you doing tonight?
Not too bad. Maybe not so good after we talk about vampires and bring them down upon us.
Yes.
As that said, we are talking about vampires. So, first off, the big question is, do we actually believe they exist? This
Maybe just a little.
it's it's one of these that was brought to one of the people that watch are asking questions whether or not we could cover this topic, and so we decided to do that. And then so I got a little bit to found there. Basically, start vampires are you know for lack of a better thing, they're through folklore and years of stories have been passed down over these creatures. Everything, whether it's to scare, for scary stories at bedtime, to control masses by through hysteria. They've been handed down. Basically, a vampire will suck your blood, steal your life essence, and turn you into one of them. So,
Boo.
you know, we've talked a little bit. I think I'm trying to remember what episode we talked about it, but it was that same thing where there's something primal where we are afraid of the dark. There's something at night, that freaks everybody out. You're just uneasy. Walking in the woods during the daytime, no big deal.
Fine.
Go at night, every little twig snap, you're on edge. You're about to be eaten by some giant predator. So so why is that? We don't know, but that's definitely, you could see a giant flying creature that's going to swoop down, latch onto your neck, drink your blood, and turn you into a vampire. Could be freaky stories. And that uh, I don't have a picture to show up on screen, but there's one. It's a bat that's probably, I think it's about 3 feet tall, and it's huge wingspan. And you could see, I mean, if this was flying around, I mean, especially if you're already on edge thinking that vampires are real and one of these bats are flying, I mean, it'd be pretty easy to mistake it for a human size figure flying around the sky, because this thing's giant. It's one. I think a few people. I mean, I'll try to post it on the page so that way everybody can see it. What I'm talking about. But it's definitely something that, seeing it in the dark, it'd freak you out. I mean, you'd be definitely screaming El Diablo flew over my head. It's that would not be. And then basically modern times, you know, we're talking Interview with Vampire, Bram Stoker's Dracula, where we're you know by Francis Ford Coppola, his movies. We see a lot of movies. Twilight. You get the more tweener glamour. Just not so scary. But then you have, I don't know if any of you guys have watched True Blood.
True Blood.
No.
Yeah, that's a pretty good series.
That was more. I kind of referred to that as vampire porn, because it seemed like every episode somebody had their clothes off.
They did. It was just like, dude, that's all I see is Ben.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically, I'm a vampire. I'm gonna attack. Oh wait, my clothes fell off.
Yeah, PG porn.
Bow, bow.
PG porn. My
I don't know if it was PG. Yeah, it was
You didn't
somewhere
see
between R and NC-17. In some of the episodes. So it was. I don't know, PG. Maybe at the opening when it just said True Blood. That was PG, and then that fell right off the rails. After that, yeah. So we've got. Just looking here. So, a lot of creatures. We talked about the chupacabra. It kind of has a similar type thing. It's a creature that's going to jump out. Suck the blood of an animal. Vampires doing that. Just You've got, but I mean, we're talking like Bram Stoker's story was back in 1897. So these ones, these have been around a long time in there. And one of them, like I said, I'm not. I'll let you guys. If you found something, like I said, I can break
But
into.
but the word vampire didn't appear in the English language until 1735, when it was used in a poem dating. It was also dating back to 4000 BC, which they described vampires as the creature of the person that was buried improperly, and it came back to suck the life out of the living. So that's one of
Mhm.
the interesting facts I found.
Yeah. Also, I'm not sure what you found.
What happened? Can you hear me?
I said, but yeah, what did you find?
Okay.
Did you find anything about?
Well, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but the first official vampire was named Ambrogio from Italy, and his love of his life was Selena. So maybe that's true or not. But also, and a ruler named Bram Stoker, who they named Vlad the Impaler, was born in Transylvania, Romania, and ruled off and on from 1456 to 1464. I think I wrote down. Um,
Wallachia.
he would just dine and miss his dying victims while dipping bread in their blood right in front of him. Like, and
Yep.
I was like, that kind of sparked imagination for Count Dracula. Supposedly, there's other people saying it didn't, but
Yeah, it's kind of like that, where that's the Bram Stoker story. It has similarities to his thing. I mean,
yeah,
Vlad the Impaler, he's kind of credited with kind of furthering that story. Yeah, one of those, like the impaling thing during the Ottoman Empire when they were at war. The Sultan came into Wallachia and came across, if I remember the number right, there was about 20,000 of his men that were impaled.
damn,
So he went in, and so here's 20,000 soldiers, and I guess not just soldiers, but I guess if I remember right, there was women and children that were also impaled on pikes. So everything is, so, and one, just like the twisted, demented part of Vlad the Impaler is, and even one, he would take mothers with their babies and impale them together.
wow, what a
Yeah, so
sicko.
yeah, so he was pretty, it was pretty demented, the stuff, and they, he kind of got that name where it was just don't mess with this guy. I mean, he was,
Yeah,
yeah, it was. We go to some of the one I printed off. I'll give credit where it's Eric Michael Johnson back in 2011. He wrote this. I'll just read some of it. It's a kind of like a natural history where it shows some of the stories about him. Is in 1732 in Medveda, Serbia, in the Carpathian Mountains. Um, it says, if nature herself was conspiring with evil, in the valley below, a shadow had been draped over the corpses that now littered a quiet cemetery. 40 villagers had been exhumed that morning. A total of 13 had been identified as vampires. Fresh blood had seeped from their mouth, their nose, or gaping wounds in their chest where the stake had been pounded in.
damn,
This was clear evidence of their demonic guilt. Dr. Johannes Fleckinger, regiment medical officer dispatched by the Honorable Supreme Command, surveyed the ghastly scene. He was clearly uneasy about being sent to the small village of the remote edge of the Habsburg Empire. His disgust for the local citizens was evident as he gazed upon a newborn child who, because of the careless burial, had been half eaten by the dogs.
See, there goes that burial thing again. They say you came back on Earth as a vampire if you were buried wrong.
Yep. And so this doctor hunched over what had once been the child's mother, a 20-year-old peasant woman named Stana, and proceeded with, at that time, the section, the autopsy. He noted that she was quite complete and undecayed. despite having died in childbirth 2 months earlier. Like the others, her blood hadn't coagulated, and after prying open her ribcage, he documented her lungs, liver, and spleen were all still fresh.
Yeah.
The woman's skin was described as fresh and vivid, and she had a pool of extravascular blood in her stomach, which means it wasn't from her. It came from something like feeding.
Can you
So-
imagine? Can you imagine them ripping open her stomach with the tools that they had back then? Probably wasn't not very nice of a sight.
But just they, so like here's one of the stories, that kind of feeds into the hysteria. So basically just some plain speak. So think about it. You're in this time. You're going here. You're very hysterical about vampires, that they exist. You're digging up these bodies. Well, you find a body that was buried months ago, and now looks like it still was just buried that day.
We all know that's not possible.
And well, like I said, this is the account. And then while doing the research, some of these corpses had fresh blood on their mouths, and like this mom, had blood inside the stomach, as if she had just fed and gone back into the grave. And so, these stories, feed into that, and then, so these ones, which they now deemed vampires and creatures, they local gypsies of this area cut off the heads of these that they deemed to be vampires, and then they burned the bodies.
So yeah,
and then the ashes were thrown into the river.
Taking no precautions there, man.
I'd be curious if the River Morava, if there's some haunting stories there now.
I'm sure we have to look into that.
A bunch of ashes from people inside the river, so I'm wondering if there's some hauntings that take place down that river.
But you can also become a vampire if you jump over a body. They say you grow teeth after you jump over that body. You're superior. When you go to sleep that night, you turn into a vampire because that body didn't. I guess you didn't pay respect to that body because you jumped over an improper buried body.
Yeah.
When they say when you go to sleep, you grow vampire teeth.
Why is there an improper buried body in the first place? Like, what are you doing? Where do you find this thing?
Yeah.
Well, there's this one too. From a girl named Mercy Brown. You hear about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go for it.
She was from Rhode Island. She was a daughter of George Brown, a farmer. He lost a lot of family members in the 1800s to tuberculosis, which is Mercy Brown, his daughter. I guess he buried her body above ground in a above ground vault in New England in the winter. So it didn't have much decay on it. So people come back like, "Oh, she's a vampire. She's not decayed," and it's in New England in the winter. So they blamed Mercy Brown for the entire family's death. They ended up cutting her heart out, burning it, and then feeding the ashes to her sick brother, who ended up dying anyway of tuberculosis. But they still blamed her for the whole entire thing.
As a vampire.
She's a vampire. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, it's that kind of goes back to, it dates back way back. I mean, one of the ones, like, I don't know, I printed this up because I was going to talk about this too. I don't know if you guys, Lilith, did you guys come across anything about her? Right, hold on to this one. Okay, everybody, take a nice drink, maybe a shot, whatever you want to do. Prepare yourself for this one. This one's down the rabbit hole.
Go down the rabbit hole. We're going down the rabbit hole.
All right. The creation story. Adam and Eve. Eve wasn't the first. Before Eve was Lilith. Lilith was the first wife of Adam, they were both created out in, we'll get to some of the biblical passages that even talk about this. So here she is. She is made same time as Adam. God, so God basically, so God creates, you go through the whole list. God creates Adam, gives him dominion over everything. He wants companions. So God makes the story was Eve. Well, he made Lilith first out of the same stuff. She refuses to be subservient to Adam. She doesn't want to, she doesn't want to be a subordinate. She wants to be an equal, at least, if not, like in the story goes, she refused to be on the bottom. She wanted to be on the top.
Wow.
And so, at no point, she wanted control, and Adam refused it. Refused, and so she was cast. The story was one of the stories is she's cast out of Eden. Another story is she escaped. That she, broke out. Basically broke out and went to do her thing. Well, and then you bring into Eve that then Eve was created to be, more of a docile form, where Lilith was more of the, first feminist. I mean, I guess would be the way, would be a way to phrase it. But this goes back to Jewish. You go back to story. Like I said, you have. I'm trying to find the first passage here. This really came about in the Middle Ages, where Hebrew language texts referred to the term Lilith or Lilith, which translated as a night creature or night monster. And so these are night hag, or even would also be referred to as a screech owl. Now, there's another passage in Isaiah where I want to apologize. I don't have it right at my fingertips here. Isaiah 4:14. And the translation of it is demons shall meet with monsters. And one hairy one shall cry out to another. There, the Lamia has lain down and found rest for herself. Well, that's that one in 15. It talks about demons and monsters. The screech owl shall rest there. In another translation, in the King James Version, it says the wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow, the screech owl also shall rest there and find herself a place for rest. So I talked about Chris a little bit earlier about this. So here in the Bible now, not only have we referred to what Hebrew text referred to as, a night hag, a creature of the night, is also referred to as a screech owl. They're not talking about an actual, barn owl, an actual owl. They're talking about a creature of the night. So here we're also in the Bible. It's talking about a satyr, and a satyr, for anybody that knows, is half man, half beast. So a lot of people know the Disney Hercules movie. Phil Latides, the trainer, he's half goat, half man. He's a satyr. So here the Bible's talking about a half man, half beast. So it's some people would say, well, the screech owl, they're literally just talking about an owl. Well, if that's not, if it's going to be literal, then, it's got to be one or the other. They both have to be metaphor, or they have to be literal.
Yeah.
So I mean, everything. So obviously now we're talking about a mythical creature, a satyr, which but now it's in the Bible as a factual creature, and a screech owl, Lilith, the night hag, creature of the night. So here we have, even in the Bible, we have passages talking about, this person that was been, a lot of people are just like, it's just a story, but it's actually these were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they've gone through the text. One of them, I don't know. I apologize about this. I don't know how they refer to it. I'm just going to call it. It's 4Q184. I think is the designation of the Dead Sea Scroll. But it was also translated into Proverbs 2:18 through 19, and it said, "Her house sinks down to death. and her course leads to the shades. All who go to her cannot return and find again the paths of life. So once again, another reference to this creature. And so you're going through, and so it's one of those, either this is metaphor, and then we take, okay, so what else in the Bible is same thing? Or it's, like I said, the Word of God. This is the literal, record of what's here. So now we've got, these mythical creatures. So now in the Bible, we have, circumstantial to a point that, we tangible where, we're in the courtroom, we're making our case of an actual, biblical reference to a creature that could be considered, the early vampire.
Yeah.
And so that's,
I thought about that.
yeah, it's one of those. I mean, it could go into, really, really long, about them. We'll get to, there's a pseudographical thing called the Alphabet of Ben Sira. I don't know if you guys have heard of that or not. I'll read some of that. This is considered one of the oldest form of the story of Lilith as Adam's first wife. I kind of tended that. They date this alphabet between the 8th and 10th century. They call it CE. I'm not entirely sure what they're referring to as CE, though. And this work has been, it has also been considered like, satire. Like it was just for fun, but there's also people that take, in combination with like those references I just said in the Bible, they kind of coincide. And this one talks about, I already went through, how she was a predecessor, and this alphabet places Lilith's creation that, after it was not good for man to be alone, claims she was created the same way, she should be equal. But then, like I said, we are not. When Lilith, decried, we should be equal, but when they would not listen to her, she pronounced, they said the ineffable name and flew away into the air. So here's a reference that Lilith took off, flew into the air. So, yeah, Adam stood in prayer before his creator, sovereign of the universe. He said, "The woman you gave me has run away." At once, the Holy One, blessed be He, sent 3 angels, Sinoi, Sansanoi, and Semanglioth, to bring her back, and she refused to return. So this is kind of gets, like I said, where you get into kind of some of the things, like I said, where kind of rabbit hole. Well, if she's left and fled, well, now we got a problem, because any of us have gone to church and stuff and been told that all of us came from, descendants of Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now she's flown off to another to be with another group of people. Who are these other people? There's another civilization outside the Garden of Eden.
The Emos.
This is the rumor of, the Nephilim, the sons of copulation of angels and humans, and this, so this gets into, like I said, the rabbit hole. You're following down. You're pulling these threads. So here's this night hag, the screech owl, and has now flown into the air, refuses to come back, and is now been given a curse. It says, said to the Holy One, to Adam, if she agrees to come back, what is made is good. If not, she must permit 100 of her children to die every day. The angels left God and pursued her. When they overtook them in the midst of the sea, the mighty waters wherein the Egyptians were destined to drown, they told her God's word, but she did not wish to return. The angel said, "We shall drown you in the sea." "Leave me," she said. "I was created only to cause sickness to infants. If the infant is male, I have dominion over him for 8 days after birth, if female for 20 days. So I thought it's really weird, but it shows. So here, she refused to come back, so now she's cursed. And so now, yeah, so according to
So
this
is in the Bible, huh?
Well, this is that alphabet. The
Oh,
alphabet.
okay.
There's that one's considered, satire to a point, but this is the one
Okay.
that falls in with some of, like I said, those Bible passages I had where it ties in, where this is in reference to, that, her, she. It's a, I'll get back to that. Find that passage I just read. This is that one where you start to read them, and then let's see right here. There's that Proverbs one. Her house sinks down to death. Her course leads to the shades. All who go to her cannot return and find again the paths of life. So yeah. So there's different. There's several different passages. Like I said, Isaiah 34:14, the wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow, the screech owl, who also shall rest there and find herself a place of rest. So here, like I said, there's two different versions talking about the same thing.
Same passages
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
references.
yep. And it's so we've got there's a lot of us in that believe the Bible is a literal accounting of what happened. So it's kind of hard to discredit this as just allegory. These are metaphors. These are stories that were passed down. Well, I mean, apparently something else is going on.
Somebody knew a little bit more than we knew. Put it that way.
Yes. Yeah, but that's also kind of credited as the origin of the vampire story. Is that here you have a flying creature referred to as a screech owl, even in there where people are cursed to death. So
Yeah. The early conspiracy theories. What we have now.
yes, so yeah, I don't know, kind of a little interesting on that one. But
That's very interesting.
I
they
looked up something else. I kind of did a little research too. It called porphyria. I'm saying it completely wrong. But it's this disorder causing severe blisters on your skin when exposed to sunlight. And when I looked it up, obviously they're not going to tell you to do this, but apparently you're supposed to ingest blood to temporarily relieve symptoms. WebMD is not going to tell you that, but that's what apparently you're supposed to do. I don't know where you're going to get blood on hand, but
Did you see the ancient research has linked historical reports of vampires to outbreaks of rabies? So they were saying that animals got rabies from vampires.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a little far fetched, don't you think?
Some of
So
the
what's
stuff are really far fetched.
what's like? Why did I didn't dig too deep into it. Maybe we don't know. Why did it's the Transylvania thing? Why do vampires? You would think they come from Transylvania and Romania. Where'd that come from? Like,
That's
why of all places in the world, Romania is where these vampires allegedly come from?
that's part of the when Bram Stoker wrote his poem, the book,
Okay.
that was romanticized back then. That's kind of where the whole Transylvania, Vlad the Impaler, also known as Dracula,
Yeah.
that's where a lot of the Dracula came in, is because that was he. Yeah, it's trying to remember. It's like the Order of the Dragon is what that refers to when into that name, and so he's one of kind of a line of people that were Draculas. So you get Bram Stoker comes in, the legend of Dracula, and then that's how we have modern day. And when people think of Dracula vampire, it comes from the Transylvania, Romania area, and that's kind of where that part came from. But a lot of the Garden of Eden stuff supposedly takes place around Mesopotamia. So, what would be modern day Iraq? Iran. in that area, somewhere around Euphrates and Tigris rivers. That's considered where a lot of that's that's where people assume that this was at some place. So it's kind of there's something about that section of the planet that has this mystique about it of this. And I'm not kind of
That has crazy stories.
mhm. Yeah, this
I'm trying to look it up.
yeah the I was looking at that one where because I had found the same stuff about Mercy Brown and so there's they that other than most of the folk beliefs, but I mean we're talking everything from ancient Greeks, Romans, the Mesopotamians, Hebrews. Everybody had stories about something that would be modern day, like vampire, would be credited with that. So I said it kind of during Bigfoot episode, the same thing myself. At some point, there's got to be something to these stories when multiple cultures, multiple civilizations are all talking about the same thing.
I can believe it. I mean, how would you come up? I mean, not as far as just TV shows and Hollywood, but what would say garlic and drive a stake through them? I mean, people have weird imaginations, but I mean, do you think that maybe they found a script of this somewhere that is just not talking about, or the people who find stuff just
I
mysteriously
don't know.
disappear and they just don't get to really tell their story?
It's kind of like the ancient aliens thing where you look at carvings and they all have a similar carving, and these are unrelated cultures. So they're how do they know about the same thing? It would be kind of it would be like all three of us making up a bedtime story for our sons, and then at some point writing them down, and people go, "How did all three of these come up with the same scary story for their kids?" We're all talking about some creature that's hanging out of the window with glowing eyes, scratch at the window. I mean, we come up and we tell the same tale. And so everybody then you're just like, okay, so this is cool. They all came up with a story, but at the same time, at what point do we start thinking, okay, maybe there was something literally outside these guys' windows that they saw, and they were just telling, they may have embellished at it that flame was coming out the mouth, and they come in here, but it's all the same basic story that there was some creature at the window that wanted in.
But that goes back to like ancient times where, have you ever been to the country where you don't have really lights on in the country, and it could have been a bear that got done eating something and it just put his mouth on the window with the teeth, and you're like, oh well, that was a vampire. But in all actuality, maybe it was a bear or something, and everybody described the same creature, or a coyote that was possessed with rabies or something. That just, I don't know.
But
Just
in that aspect, there would be an actual creature. There would be something that people saw. So I mean, do I think there's some ancient, decrepit, creature named Lilith flying around in the skies, you know, commanding, demons, to is um, maybe,
maybe,
maybe.
maybe.
I don't know. I'm not quite sure if I'm willing to cross that bridge just yet, but definitely I can see that there's got to be something underlying in all these stories for it to then pass down. Because you're talking now, if you're talking like medieval Germany, France, okay, it could be something easily just trans a story that's been spread around. But when you're talking the same exact story from the Middle East to medieval, to China to Japan, they all have folklore stories about these creatures, and these are ancient cultures that medieval Europe had no knowledge of China.
Mm-mm.
So there was no intertrade. I mean, and so here's two completely separate worlds that have similar stories, and you start thinking along the lines that there might be something to this. I was looking, as I said, that I was trying to find that one about.
Yeah, they didn't have Google, so they couldn't say, "Oh, what's that? What else is it?"
Yeah, I'm trying to find that one about the ones from Japan. That one was kind of cool. I'm trying to find that right now. Stall for me while I'm looking for it.
So
Yeah, it's. But yeah, I'll see if I can find it. I may not have printed that one out, but but yeah, you're saying like protection. You're talking about garlic. That I think it's. I'm trying to remember how to say the word. It's a tropic. It's a apotropic, I think, is the term. It's garlic, a branch of wild rose, hawthorn are all said to harm vampires. Sprinkling mustard seeds on the roof of a house was said to keep vampires away in Europe.
poppy seed. I read poppy seed. I didn't read mustard seed.
Mustard seeds, holy water, because vampires are said to be unable to walk on consecrated ground, churches, temples, or cross running water. That's kind of weird one. They can't, does that literally mean that they can't walk across it? I mean, because if they can fly, can't you just jump over it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You suddenly try, you're Mr. Vampire, and you suddenly try to cross a river, and there's like some invisible force field that just smacks you down. Like a bird hitting a window, just pow, and just falls straight down. It's like running water. Can't cross it, buddy.
No.
Sorry. Yeah. This. I don't. He's back.
Vampire, try getting me. Sorry about that.
Yep. I found it.
The vampire captured you, Austin.
The Notestoon family found him. Okay. So, vampires, really, like Japanese cinema really took off in the 1950s, really started doing. The folklore a little bit has more about the Western origin, but they have the same type of stories of creatures that same thing, that they're a little bit more in like the flair, like Japanese flair, the forked tongues, the crazy look, bat-like wings that prey on the unsuspecting sleeping pregnant women, feeding on the young. I'm looking at that right now. I think it has something to do with the properties of what garlic does to blood. I think is what the main reason of why garlic was used. I'm looking right now for you on that one. So did you guys find any other cool stories?
Not really.
About the wife, where the vampire comes back and impregnates the wife. When the husband dies, the vampire comes back and impregnates the wife, and then the child is supposed to be a vampire slayer. Did you see that?
What?
Huh.
That was the wife changes her whole appearance, and then the vampire supposedly sleeps with the wife, and then they impregnates her, and then then the child becomes a vampire slayer.
Becomes Blade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Becomes the Daywalker. That was a good movie, by the way. Yeah, first one was really good. First one's good.
We have
third one.
We have our first question. We have our first question of the night. What does garlic do to the vampires?
That's what I'm trying to figure out as we're stalling.
You want to take that one, Craig?
That's what I'm trying to look up right now. Now, you think when you're doing research on the subject of vampires, you might be prepared for that one. I failed. All three of us failed, on one of the basic things we probably should have done. I mean, the severing of the head, the stake in the heart, supposedly it is so that way they couldn't come back to life. That was where driving that stake into the heart was they kind of went back to that village where they found these bodies that looked like they were completely intact. They weren't decaying, and so the thought was if they drove the stake through the heart, that would prevent them from reanimating. And then when that still wasn't it, that's where also the thing, if you sever the head, you burn the bodies. Well, you're pretty much ensuring there's nothing to reanimate. But I mean, it became hysteria. Basically, is a form of hysteria. Just you've got probably just some early form of coronavirus floating around the village. And they're all just they're all succumbing to it. Everybody's got to find a reason why this is happening. Well, it's got to be it's got to be old Sally over there. She came back from the dead and she feasted on my dog, and now because of that, now I'm sick and I'm gonna die. That's a vampire.
It's a vampire. I'm convinced. Vampire.
Yeah, so that's it's kind of just kind of crazy how some of those traditions kind of came about in that one, but where it was just it wasn't so much scientific based as it was more of just panic induced. There was fear. Something has to be something has to be the reason for all this happening. It has to be a witch. It has to be a demons. It has to be it can't be because they didn't know about pathogens. They didn't know about tuberculosis. They didn't know about these things. They basically supposedly it's a chemical. I'm looking up the 9 reasons why vampires fear
garlic.
Garlic. Why is that? I don't know. Apparently the website fears it too because it just said 404 not found. So this garlic is highly effective. Yeah, it's
well, it looked like something was it covers up the smell of blood too, so you couldn't really smell it. Where'd it go? Oh man, I lost it.
I know it's one of those.
Garlic specifically give vampire the heebies.
Heebie-jeebies.
That also seems very scientific.
It's a scientific word out there, the heebie-jeebies.
I don't know. There's just basically, I think it was in a way, Matt, producer, you put it up there. It might have had just something to do, the properties it does to the blood. Maybe it made the blood taste bad. I mean, who knows? Who knows? What I do know is that there isn't any garlic in Bratz blends. I do know that. I was wrong about the sage. I was wrong about the sage, but I do know that there is no garlic oil in this blend.
Maybe he can create me a garlic blend that will warn off vampires if there is any. It'd be garlic tobacco.
I don't think the wife will like that very much.
Walk around smell like a clove of garlic.
Kelly has a lot of great scents, but garlic I don't think is a good scent all the time.
What are you gonna call it, Mario and Luigi? You're gonna go around smelling like garlic all day long.
Garlic and tobacco. I bet that would be a good scent.
Oh my god.
Oh Jesus. Just like a kitchen. Everywhere he goes, it smells like a kitchen. My God.
What would you go? Yeah, but no blends.
No, just stick to Kelly, man. Kelly has all the best scents, from apple butter to purple haze to cinnamon vanilla, which I'm gonna try to buy this weekend. Everything, man. He has some great scents.
They're gonna smell like a big ginger sugar cookie.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can say BratzBeardsCare.com. Use the promo code 3beards, capital B. Get 20% off your order, free shipping. Nanny Cakes, Nancy Burke. Give her a call here a little later on. She's a little under the weather right now, so she's not really making any cakes anytime in the couple of days future. So you can give her a call on that. But Nanny Cakes, thanks for your sponsorship. Contact her at 407
923-2898. Facebook, Nanny Cakes, Nancy Burke. Instagram a little bit. She has her cakes on there, mainly Facebook. So message her on Facebook too. She's always back to you.
Isn't it Nancy B. Burke?
Yeah, Nancy.B.Burke on Instagram and Nanny Cakes Nancy Burke on Facebook.
Just thanks again to Matt, producer. You guys
Yep.
for putting this together. Go check us out on threebeardspodcast.com, Instagram, Twitter. Obviously, you found us on Facebook because you're here. We appreciate that. Like, share, get it out to your friends. Try to make them fall in love with these three beards as much as you are. We appreciate that. Thank you guys, everybody, for watching. Check us out on YouTube as well. We're on there. Subscribe, hit that bell notifications so you can get all the new videos as they come up. Watch it again. But as always, good night.
Night.